good. So now, the first thing that we're going to look at, thank you everybody for the feedback. The first thing that we're going to look at is at people's emotions. All right? And so people have emotional tones. We could also call them emotional states. Yeah? Everybody is in some sort of an emotional state. Take, for instance, my father. He passed away, but the guy was chronically in boredom. He was always bored with life. He would just plunge in the sofa, pick up the remote control, start zapping one channel after another, then switch off the TV, then pick up the newspaper and browse through it, then decide to go to sleep, then wake up, then decide to go to the fridge, get some food, then decide to turn on the TV again, then start zapping. In other words, there was nothing much going on, right? Now, maybe you have seen people who always seem to criticize. And that could be like an emotional state. It's like, it's always wrong. You know, you can never do anything right. You'll never, ever get a compliment from this person. And he's just nattering and making wrong. And it's like all the time. So it could be an emotional state, right? And maybe at the same time, you've seen people who are afraid. They don't dare to do anything. You say, hey, let's go somewhere, and let's have some fun. So no, I'm not good with people. All right. Well, how about no. I rather stay on my own. I rather stay at home. Yeah. So we have emotional states, and likewise, of course, there's people who are always in good moods, lots of vitality, lots of energy. Never ever really see them in a bad mood. Good. So we're going to cover that, and the thing that we're going to look at is a scale of vitality. So you can imagine a scale that starts with full vitality, and it runs down to less, let's say, half vitality, and it runs down to like no vitality, and that would be death. All right? So we got a scale there. We're going to go and cover that scale from basically a high level of vitality and consciousness to a very, very low level of vitality and consciousness. Now, if I refer to consciousness, I basically mean just your awareness, right? So, for example, right now, you are aware of the sound that's coming out of your computer or your laptop. You're aware about your own environment. You might even be aware of the pressure that you feel under your buttocks and under your legs, or the pressure that you feel in your bag. Yeah, that's simply awareness. You're aware of your present environment. Now, as we go down, we start to see more imagination. A person who is suspicious will take a lot of things with suspicion, right? So you approach that person and say, hey, I got a sweet deal for you. And he's not aware enough to really have a look. He already made up his mind. He didn't even look, but he already made up his mind that something is in a certain way, right? So he would regard everything in life with suspicion. It runs on full automatic, right? And so we're going to have a look at that scale where vitality and a consciousness or awareness actually can go from very high levels to very low levels. Okay, now we're gonna start from the bottom, and you can see there already we have death. Yeah, and there's an emotional state which is approximating death, which is very, very close to death, and that state is called apathy. So apathy is a kind of like a hopelessness. It's all lost. What is there to live for, right? There's nothing that can be done. It's all over, and that would be apathy. And so we're going to put that here on that scale. So that resembles a near death, right? So I would just say the person is the way that he behaves is like there's no motion in this person anymore. It's all done. It's over with. There's no hope. So the person behaves as in a near death type of emotion. I hope you can see. On my screen it looks okay, but there it is. That's pretty much at the bottom of the scale, right? Now, the next one up would be grief. And as you can see, I'm just going to consult my notes here. When a man is chronically in grief about his losses, he is in grief. Well, so when do we start to mourn? When do we start to be in grief? Well, that is usually after we have suffered a loss or we have suffered losses. If you lose somebody that was really dear to you, or let's say you lose some possession that was really dear to you, or perhaps even an animal or a job or whatever, but you suffered the loss, which is like you're not going to get this back, then you could consider to be in grief. So the person in grief has actually suffered loss. All right, when a person is not yet in grief, but he feels that losses are impending, in other words, that losses may come his way, or actually are, I shouldn't say may, I should say when loss is actually coming his way, he's going to be afraid. Let's take little Johnny. Little Johnny walks outside and at some distance he sees a pit bull, right? Or some dangerous dog, for example. No disrespect to the pit bull. But anyway, so he glances and he sees a pit bull, right? But now, a couple of seconds later, he actually sees that pit bull is coming closer. And that pit bull is really focused on Johnny. And Johnny starts to realize that this dog is aiming for him. And when that dog keeps getting closer, he's going to be in fear. Okay, so in fear, we have impending losses. All right. Now, when an individual who is fighting against a threatened loss is going to be in anger, right? So let's say you have a couple, husband and wife, or a partnership, and one had been a little bit unfaithful. So you may see this very logical reaction, this logical response of the other person who is really pissed, right? Because he is fighting against a threatened loss, right? He never wanted this to happen, right? So maybe he tried to help and he failed utterly. Yeah? So for some reason he's super pissed off that he couldn't stop somehow that loss, right? So here in anger, we got fighting. Just putting their potential. The person will fight a potential loss. Okay, now we get into the band of annoyance, criticism. And that is the person who's merely suspicious that loss may take place. Well, let's say we know those people, for example, who cannot really deal with the concept of, let's say, foreigners coming to the country. And they'll say something nasty about it. We don't need them. Let them go home. Let them stay in their own country. So maybe in his mind, he has the idea that maybe these people may take over his job. It's kind of like an utterance of his own insecurity, right? But he has this idea, he has this suspicion that a loss might take place, right? So now we get into the band of antagonism. All right? Okay, so above antagonism, the situation of a person is not so good that he is enthusiastic, that he's happy, that he's vital. It's not that good. And it's not that bad that he is resentful. We're getting into the emotional tone that I just described where my father was in. And this kind of like sums it up, this quote. He has lost some goals and he cannot immediately locate others. That would be boredom. He has lost some goals, he cannot immediately locate other goals. Right? So somebody retires, he had a goal, his goal was, to go to work every day and to meet with his colleagues, and he had some fun there. He liked it. Well, maybe it was not a big goal, but at least there was some kind of a goal there. And he retired, and all of a sudden, he was faced with no other goals left, right? He lost some goals. He cannot immediately locate others. And we got boredom. Good. Now, we go up a little bit further, and we get something like a conservative and cautious outlook toward life. Yeah, this person's actually reaching his goals, but he's careful. He's cautious. Let's take, for example, somebody's running a business, right? And he made a couple of steps. He made a couple of moves. He got hit by the market, or he got hit by the tax department, or he got hit by local laws. So he went flat on his face and said, well, next time I'm just going to be a bit more cautious. So he tends to make a bit by bit, baby step kind of progress. Yeah, a slow progress. Don't do too much. Just play safe. And that would be conservatism. All right, so in conservatism, as you can see, the person is cautious and he's reaching his goals. Okay, now, at the top of our scale in this case, you will see an enthusiastic, happy, and vital individual. And we call that enthusiasm. there we see actually a person who's got a lot of vitality. He's happy. His body is in a very good shape. He could probably work hours and hours and hours and forever, it seems. There's almost no limit to what that person can do. Now, so today we're just going to cover this part of the scale, which is the emotions that you will most commonly see in people. At the end of the lecture, I'm going to make a reference to that you can actually go higher than that. Now, I almost have a question for you, but there's something else that I want you to know about. So the point is that, first of all, you yourself and everybody you know are somewhere on this scale. And we're just taking kind of like a bullet point approach because there's also emotions in between. Yeah? So for example, a person who is in pain would be over here in between. A person who is contented, who is satisfied and contented, would just be in between there, right? You could take hatred, and hatred would be just below anger, right? You probably get the idea. There's a bit too much to cover all that tonight, but you get the idea. Now, like I said, everybody is somewhere on that scale by approximation. And there's two aspects that you need to know. One is there is a chronic emotional tone. And the other one is an acute tone. Now, all right, so what do we mean by chronic? That means on average, that person averages out at a certain emotional tone. I just started out with my dad. My dad was always in boredom somehow, right? He lost his goals. There was nothing much else for him to do. Gardening wasn't his thing. He liked camping to some extent, but he wasn't much of a traveler. And most of the time, basically, he would kind of like waste, quote unquote, his time at home. Yeah. So he could have been said to be chronically in boredom. Okay. Now, like I said, you may know people who are always criticizing you, or who are always criticizing others, or who always have something to complain, right? And that might be over there. They're chronically over there. Now maybe you know the gossiper, the person who likes to gossip, and just spreads, oh, have you heard this? Oh, have you heard that? Oh, do you know that there's something wrong with her? That is somewhere over there. That will be a chronic tone, which is an average. All right? Now, there's also a fluctuating tone. Yeah? So let's say you're bored stiff, right? You don't want to get out of your chair, but then one of your best buddies comes over, and that person persuades you to go into town and go for a stroll and do some shopping, and while you're doing that, you just found yourself a fantastic jeans, and you got a fantastic T-shirt with that, and you had a cup of coffee together, and you cracked some jokes, and what happened? You actually went up from boredom to cheerfulness, to enthusiasm, yeah, somewhere over there, and it might just be that you enjoy that moment a little bit longer, and the next day you find yourself back bored again. Yeah? So there you have acute, and there you have chronic. Chronic is an average constant. An acute one is going up and down. Now, so you might be watching this webinar, and you check your phone, and you just say, what the hell happened? The bank just took 2,000 euros from my account. And now you're like effing pissed, right? Who allowed them to take 2,000 euros from your account? Yeah. So your acute level is going to go to anger, right? You're like, okay, well, that might be a potential loss. Good. So what I want to ask you, I think it's time for a little chat again. And Sherelle, by death, do you mean physical or spiritual death? Yeah, we mean physical death. Yeah. Spiritually, I can't really say what happens, but in this case, we mean physical death. Okay, so I have a question for you guys. Very, very simple one. Have you recognized some people on that scale already? Have you seen anybody that you know? Have you spotted somebody at a certain tone? So drop it in the chat. Yeah, okay, Sherelle, you have seen somebody, all right. Now, I'm very curious, by approximation, what emotional state have you observed? So pop in the chat, you might have seen it, okay, and now just tell me what emotional state, what emotional tone have you observed? Okay, Solange, thank you very much, you've seen anger, okay? Right. Anybody else? Anger too. All right. All right. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Here's a funny one. Okay. Anger. So we got 3 people saying anger. All right. Here's a funny one. In your own observation, that person that was angry, did he or she tell the truth? Yeah. That person who was angry. And is probably shouting at you and throwing things at you. Was that person actually telling the truth? Or what was it? What did you get? Okay, we have some more. Antagonism, boredom, grief. Thank you very much, guys. All right, he was overreacting. Very good. He was overreacting. Yeah. Not much of truth there, right? I mean, not 100% truthful, right? Good. Let me just wait a second if anybody else is responding. And then we move on again. Escalation of simple stuff. Exactly, yeah. Spiraled completely out of control. You're like, well, this no longer makes any sense to me, right? This person is just lashing out at me. It's a drama, right? It's unreasonable, right? Okay, well, that is anger. You see, that person has already lost quite a bit of vitality. He has gone down on the scale. Now, what enters in here is the introversion. The person is looking at some kind of experiences before, and he thinks that the same thing is kind of like at hand again. Yeah? Good. Everything out of control. Thank you, Laura. Okay, so let's carry on. I hope you're still at the tip of your chair and getting something out of this. So this chart divides at some point, and we're going to put some numbers there so you have a bit of an idea. Let me take a different color. So enthusiasm, we're going to call 4.0. Conservatism, we're going to call 3.0. Boredom, we're going to call 2.5. Antagonism, we're going to mark that 2.0. By the way, these are arbitrary numbers. Yeah, so you just have an idea of the degree of vitality that the person still has. Anger, we're going to put that here at 1.5. Fear, we're going to put that at 1.0. Then we have grief, we're going to put that at 0.5. And then we're going to have apathy, that is 0.1. Death would be 0.0. Okay? So now we have something metric there, right? And something that kind of like indicates the amount of vitality that's in the person. The scale, actually, the full scale runs up all the way to 40. So that gets very interesting in the upper levels. Now, we're going to carry on. This chart, it divides at some point. Above 2.0, the direction of action is toward survival. The person will try to live as long as possible and as well as possible. Okay? I'm going to do something outrageous, which is draw a line here. So that the higher up, the more vitality, the more awareness and consciousness, the more capable the person is, the more confident the person is. All that goes hand in hand. The higher up you go, the more competent you become, the more confident you become. Your awareness goes up, your IQ goes up. A lot of things, a lot of good things happen. So I'm going to give that to you again. Above 2.0, the direction of action is toward survival. Okay, so what do we mean by survival? Well, you know, in layman's terms, it's very simple. You could say to live and to let live, right? That is like you want good for self, you also want good for others, and you want good for your animals, you want good for your possessions, you want good for the team that you're in, you care about mankind, you care about nature. So it's all to live and let live, yeah? So once again, above 2.0, the direction of action is toward survival, to live and let live. The person will try to live as long as possible and as well as possible. He wants to have a bountiful life, you could say, right? And the higher up he goes, the more he likes to share with others. Now, there's an opposite here. Below 2.0, the individual tends toward succumb. So to succumb, that is like, well, it ends with death, right? That is to succumb. It ends with death. It's a total giving up on things. It's a failure, and you've had it. Okay, so below 2.0, the individual tends toward succumbing. All right, now pay attention. The individual may apparently engage upon survival activities. He may apparently engage upon survival activities, but will do something to bring about a non-survival end, regardless of what activity the individual engages upon. So below that, he will always, there is no exception, he will always tend toward succumbing. He may apparently engage upon survival activities, but he will do something to bring about a non-survival end, regardless of what he says, or regardless of what he does. Okay, good. So this is quite key because we need to understand this. What I would like to know from you guys, pop it in the chat, just to make sure if we understand each other. Who could give me an example of something that seems like it's a fun or survival activity, but in reality is not. Give me an example. Maybe you have a friend, quote unquote, a friend who engages in these type of activities that may sound like, it's all great, it's all wonderful, and and it's for the best, but actually it's not at all, right? Laura, drug use. Yeah, all right. That is just spot on. Okay, he says he's going to do a lot of things, but he does not do it. Blah, blah, blah. Exactly. All right. Drinking, leading up to alcohol use. Mobile addiction. Oh, that's something there. Absolutely. Yeah, you got it. Okay, good. Yeah. So, okay, let's go to the cinema and have fun, right? And have a good laugh. Okay, well, that could be survival. But now, like, okay, hey, let's watch a movie in the sofa, and smoke some marijuana. Well, it sounds good, watching a movie, but now you're combining it with smoking marijuana. It's probably not that survival anymore, right? All right, let's see. Spela. Hey, Spela, you're here. Very good. My father may have good intention to help me, but at the end, he eventually does damage despite good intention. Okay, thank you very much, Spela. Good, so thank you for your answers, guys. Pretty key. Good, so I'm going to give you some more data on this. Below that number, so we have their antagonism. So below 2.0, the individual will tend toward the death of himself, sex, the future, groups, or mankind. Maybe you heard, for example, a story like an airplane crash. This is like, I'm just giving you a very, very dramatic example, yeah? But that kind of like stuck with me. There was this very, very successful pilot that had years and years and years of, on his record. And he was very trustworthy as a pilot. And then something dramatic happened in his life, like he lost his wife or something, right? Something really dramatic happened to him. And he couldn't overcome that loss. It was so much to handle emotionally. He couldn't do it. And he went into apathy, or he went into this band of grief and apathy, where a person has the feeling like, well, what do I actually live for, right? And you can imagine, like, he's overthinking, he's like in this fog, right? He's in this fog, and like it's just grief, and he doesn't even see that he's flying anymore. He probably doesn't even see the controls and everything in front of him. Not really, at least, right? He's in this fog of this tremendous loss, and he feels there's nothing else to live for. And for that reason, he might be better off to just be dead and join his wife. So I think I just took the airplane full of passengers down. So the below 2.0, the individual will tend, this is a tendency, right? It will tend toward the death of himself, sex, the future, groups, or mankind. Yeah. Okay, so we're living on planet Earth. Yeah. There's a lot of crazy stuff happening here, and we can see, for example, wars. Right. We just had a pandemic behind us. Right. We see politicians debating, and sometimes you hear people say that they're absolutely pro-war. War is necessary for peace, and that we have to raise more taxes to support more wars. Well, that kind of like would be in that band, wouldn't it? Below 2.0, the individual will tend toward the death of himself, sex, the future, groups, or mankind. He will repel good things and he will attract bad things. he will neglect or worsen the condition of things. Okay, good. So we have 20 minutes. I'm going to bombard you with a little bit more data, because the next thing is also going to be vital, again, to understand a little bit what method people use in dealing with others. Okay? And you could actually tell with what kind of person you're dealing in the way that he deals with you and that he treats you. Now, the highest category is over here. So between conservatism, and you would have some cheerfulness there, enthusiasm. In that band, you will meet people who, in general, mean well. Who, if you might be struggling a bit, they will try to lift you up. They will try to show you examples how you can improve, how you can be better. They may show support on any goal that you may have, trying to lift you up and trying to get you in good moods. And that band is called enhancement. So to enhance means to make better, right? You want to help a person. It's uplifting in a way. Then boredom, as you can imagine, nothing much happens. And then we get into this band here: antagonism, anger, and let me see, that goes down to the middle of fear and anger, and from antagonism down is that band. And here we get domination. So what does that mean? So that is a kind of like a punishment drive. Here the person uses alarm, uses threats, uses the general promise of pain unless compliance is given. If you do that, I will no longer be your friend. You do that, and it's over between us. Yeah, it's that kind of conversation. There's threats and alarm and some kind of a pain there involved in order to get you to comply. And that is, you could say it's a punishment drive, yeah, because the person kind of like verbally or physically may punish, so you get domination, yeah. And then from there onward, now we go into the lower band, a little bit above fear, all the way down to apathy. There we get a band that is called nullification. So, nullification, that has to do with the word null. With null, we mean to render null, to make nothing out of something or somebody, to make zero out of you, out of your dreams, out of your ambitions, to just make nothing out of this. Now here, a person is kind of like in fear to dominate you. He couldn't do that, right? Because he has the idea that you might be a little bit stronger and would resist. So now in very covert ways, he will try to bring you down. And it may come with a lot of appeasement and flattery, and kind of like meanwhile facade. Gosh, honey, are you really sure that you want this job? Because, you know, you're not really good at that. And you failed already several times. And you know I don't want to see you unhappy. Why don't you just apply for a job like street sweeper or something? Why don't you just, do something that you can do, right? And that kind of nullifying conversation. Good. So we have enhancement, we have domination, we have nullification. Get your next question. Has anybody seen any of these categories in action? Pop it in the chat. Have you seen any of these things? Nullification, domination, enhancement. Have you seen that in action? Have you seen it in your life? So controlling, yeah, if you feel that, we're just going to go in that in a moment, Laura. Is controlling in the same category? Well, let's say you control a little child to move across the street. Well, you're protecting the child, right, from being hit by traffic. So you could say that is good control. But you've probably seen very bad control in people, right? People who dominate, they usually use bad control. They say, Laura, get me that. No, don't go there. I told you to go there. What are you doing there? I told you to pick up this thing here. Do you ever listen? And it would be bad control, right? So you kind of like, if you look carefully, you can spot the antagonism or the anger that the person will show. Okay, so guys, let me see if I'm tracking with you guys. Okay, so you have seen those bands in motion, right? A lot of flattery in the beginning and then nullification. All right, Beatrice, you found it. That's very good. Okay, Victor, I can think of multiple people. Some are always a support. Some use pressure or manipulation. Spela, yes, all of them. Enhancement, domination, nullification. That's fantastic. Okay, good. Let's see what else. Sorry. Top more dominant in the beginning, and the bottom becomes the more dominating category or trait as it proceeds. Middle and bottom become normality. Okay. Thank you, Laura. Victor, yes. Okay. Right. Which category does habitual avoidance fall into? Okay, so if a person is in anger, in the upper anger band, he will target you. He will have you targeted, and he'll look at you in that way. He kind of like refuses communication, but he has targeted you. In the lower anger band, he kind of like looks away and he refuses your talk. I don't want to talk to you. That's his attitude. I'm not going to talk to you. If you have a withdrawal, the person withdraws, then you see somebody who is afraid of you. Does that make sense? Okay. When somebody doesn't want you for a neighbor, is it domination or is it nullification? Can't really say, but very simple is this. It is not going towards survival. The person doesn't want to have anything to do with you. So he can't be higher than here. He cannot be there. He has to be there. Very simple. So here you get support of even the neighborhood. Yeah. But over there, you get the only one type of approach. Okay, cool. We have 10 minutes, and I hope you're okay with me to just cram in a few more facts. Is that okay? Yeah. So here's the key thing. Okay, and I actually ran out of whiteboard. Merde. So I'm gonna draw a puppet, right? So let's say you are in the upper band and you are dealing with people in the lower band. You're dealing with people in the lower band. Okay, so here it is. The unfortunate part of the conduct of the lower levels of the tone scale toward others is that it has as its invariable end the lowering of the tone of the family, associates, friends, and society of the subject. In other words, if you are dealing with a person who is lower than you, it's inevitable that this person is going to pull you down. Okay, so I have another question. Have you ever seen a sudden mood change in yourself shortly after meeting somebody? Have you ever seen that? Have you seen a sudden mood change in yourself shortly after meeting somebody? Pop it in the chat, guys. Okay, Madhavi, I see your question, how to handle who is irritated or threatening mode. I'm going to show you a book that will give you the data. All right, Victor, you've seen that. Solange, you've seen that. Madhavi, you've seen that. All right, so it's quite interesting. So you may have been quite happy, and all of a sudden you felt yourself annoyed. You felt yourself irritated. Happens to me all the time. If I look at YouTube and I look at politics, there's some guys who are in that lower band who have a tendency to make wrong in a very, very vicious way. And I look at it in just a few, not even a minute, already gets me in the mood to get a hammer and just, get the feeling on them, bash somebody's brains in. So what is happening here? What's happening in that lower band? Okay, we're going to draw a line again here. Fear, grief, down below. I'm going to end off in a moment with a key emotion that's just a killer. But before we get there, in that section, we get something very, very interesting. And that is, as a rule of thumb, and it's pretty much always true, people from there all the way below, they deal in reversals of facts. They deal in reversals of facts. We always think that people tell the truth. No, scrap that. Take that out of your whatever book. That is not true. People do not always speak the truth. I just asked you the question. Well, you're dealing with a person who's angry, right? There's a lot of drama, right? Is overreacting. It's not really the truth. Well, here down below, it gets even worse. So as a rule of thumb, persons in 1.2 and below deal in reversals of facts. Whatever he says he's doing, he is doing something else. Whatever he says is true will be false. He will tell you that it was utterly false. You can count on it that it was true. So here you get a complete reversal of facts. So have you seen that? That you've been confused or upset? And could that have been, now that you know this, could that have been because somebody told you lies? Have you seen that? Have you seen that you're being confused or upset? And could it have been that somebody was telling you lies? Pop it in the chat, guys. Okay, Laura, brilliant. They accuse you of what they are doing. Exceptional. Very good. They're paranoid because it's normal to them to do it. So they expect it of you. All right. It's very true. That is very true. Okay, now, we're almost at 9 o'clock, but let me know. Do you want a little bonus, an extra 10 minutes? Let me know. Do you want a little bonus, a little, what is this? Yeah, you want to have a bonus? Okay, this might be the thing that you've been waiting for. Okay, so now first of all, imagine how would it be if you would have that data down cold, and like everybody you run into, it takes you just a couple of minutes, and you pretty much have spotted where that person is. How would that be? Wouldn't that be wonderful? That'd be great, right? Because it would actually enhance your own survival, right? It would be great. Okay, now, how would it be? Because you are, of course, also somewhere on that scale, right? Everybody's there, so you are also somewhere on that scale. Now, you might be critical, and and as a result, people have some trouble dealing with you. Maybe you don't even want to be that way. So, and maybe you feel that you don't want to be that afraid. You procrastinate a lot. You have trouble at work. You're postponing things because you're afraid to do them. There's some fear involved there, right? So how would it be if there would be a method for you actually to move up on that scale? Well, I can tell you it can be done. Yeah? There is a technology that will help you to move up that scale all the way to enthusiasm and beyond. In just a minute, a few minutes, I'm gonna tell you how to do that. Now, let's see. I'm gonna give you the gift, the bonus. And here it is. Let me see. So we have this line here, right? And there's a vicious, a wicked, emotional tone just above fear. And it's called covert hostility. Now, overt means it's all in the open, it's visible. Covert means it's hidden, right? The person doesn't want to show something. So what's happening here? This person actually feels hatred, but he's not able to express that hatred. He actually hates your guts, but he can't tell you that he does. He's too close to fear to be open about it. So he hides it. All right, now, around 1.1, let me mark that. Around 1.1 on the tone scale, we reach the level of covert hostility. Here, the hatred of the individual has been socially and individually censored to a point where it has been suppressed, and the individual no longer dares demonstrate hate as such. He yet possesses sufficient energy to express some feeling on the matter. And so what hatred he feels comes forth covertly. All right. All manner of subterfuges may be resorted to. Here it is. The person may claim to love others, and to have the good of others at his foremost interest. Yet, at the same moment, he works to injure or destroy the lives and reputations of people and property. And some more. So, at 1.1, listen carefully. At 1.1, we have lying to avoid real communication. We have lying to avoid real communication. It takes the form of pretended agreement, flattery, verbal appeasement, or simply a false picture of somebody's feelings and ideas, a false facade. Here is the level of covert hostility, the most dangerous and wicked level on the tone scale. Here is the person who tells you that he has stood up for you, when actually he has practically destroyed your reputation. The conversation is filled with small barbs, which are immediately afterwards justified as intended compliments. Any luckless person, married or engaged or in a relationship to a 1-1, is literally speaking in danger of his life and sanity. For such a person is incapable of any real affection. Oh, that's a heavy one, isn't it? So, I'm not going to go into that because we're actually exceeding 9 o'clock. But I'll tell you what you can do. So I'm going to give you a solution. What I have for you tonight, and so some guys are regulars, so you know that we always have something very, very educational and something that you can use to help yourself. But hey, with that stuff, you can help tons of other people. So what we have here is a special edition of a booklet called The Emotional Tone Scale that will give you a lot of information on, basically, let me open it up, a whole bunch of columns. You could actually tell, for example, how the person speaks and listens, how he handles sex or children, and the condition of his possessions, his health, his smell, his value as a friend, and so on. Basically, it'll give you the tools to just spot the person very, very fast. So one of the questions was like, how do you talk to such a person? Well, the booklet actually will give you the information on how you talk to such people and how you handle them. Now, you'll find more in that book called Self-Analysis. There's a number of chapters dedicated to the tone scale, is dedicated to testing you, and you could apply to others as well to find out where somebody is on that scale. Now, obviously, you may want to survive better in life. You may want to have a more bountiful life. Maybe if you don't desire that for yourself, maybe you have this wish for somebody you may want to help. So self-analysis actually contains a method. It contains procedures that if you would do that like 20 minutes to 30 minutes a day or several times a week, you will find a noticeable rise of yourself going up, starting to feel more vitality, more energy, starting to experience more pleasure, and kind of leave behind you some negative thoughts and that kind of thing. So it's I can actually say it's one of the most it's one of the most underestimated self-help books of all times. It's incredibly powerful. So, no further ado, we have this for you, and we have that for you. My colleague Dita is going to put a link in the chat. So we have a special, the 2 books for 17 euros, including shipping. Yeah, so that's our deal of tonight. 17 euros, including shipping, and you're going to find out where are you yourself on that scale. You're going to find out a method on how to improve yourself. Funny enough, you can do the exercises at yourself on your own. You can also do the exercises together. It's an immense amount of fun, and you will see that you'll move up. So, in summary, in short, let me see. I got my notes somewhere. What does that stuff do for you? So, what does the technique do for you? It raises your tone, right? You will start to feel becoming more certain. You start to feel more self-certainty. You're becoming more aware. Your competence will improve. Your memory will improve. It can even take the unbalance of your body, and it can even put your body back or more in balance. Okay, guys. So that's it. The whole idea is that we have this offer of 17 euros up till 9:30 tonight, which is so to speak, in the next half hour. If you click on the link, if you want to have that, on top of that, I'll be very happy to help you out if you have any questions. If you feel like, hey, I'm looking for life improvement, I want to do something, I want to help others, I'm interested in that subject. Just like you, for example, me too. I love to help others. It's it gives you a great feeling, and we can definitely do that. Now, Dita, if you want to help me and put my WhatsApp number in the chat. So I'm putting my WhatsApp number in the chat. Anybody who has any personal questions, who wants to have like a one-on-one conversation, you can reach out to me. That's fine. On the other hand, I could revert the whole thing and say, well, that stuff is not for you. It's just simply not for you. Don't buy it, don't take it. It might not be for you. Well, you might miss out on something, right? So let me know if you have any questions. We have put everybody on mute. I can see you talking, Beatrice, but everybody's on mute. You can pop a question in the chat if you like. And otherwise, if we don't have any questions anymore, I want to thank you very much for attending. I had a great time. I hope you had a great time too. Solange, you're welcome. Okay. All right, Beatrice. Well, we can help you if you do me a favor. Just send me a message, and we'll make sure that you're gonna get this that this book sent over to you. If you're living in France, not a problem. We can send it to France as well. So we're very, very flexible. Okay, on what address? Are you doing that, Dita, by any chance? Okay, let me see. Let me see if I can reply to you. I don't have the, oh. Okay, so I'm just going to put in my own email address here. It's a foreign keyboard. I didn't really locate the @ sign. But there it is. Message number 2, Erik, and then you get the @gmail.com. Yeah. There is an office Gmail as well, but this is probably the easiest one to just note down. All right. Beatrice, so our address is actually in Ireland. We are in Dublin. Yeah, but we have a publishing house in Denmark, in Copenhagen, and they can send worldwide. So we could just process your order tonight, and they'll send it over to France. Yeah, not a big deal. Send me an email or send me a WhatsApp, and it'll be all right. Okay. Very good. Anybody else before we end off? Any other questions? Okay. Well, guys, it was fantastic to have you here. We're going to be doing another bombardment of facts next week. Another webinar. Don't know out of the top of my head what it's going to be, but it's probably going to be good again. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for attending. Robert, thank you very much for attending. Thank you for inviting Beatrice. Victor, thank you for coming again. I think Madavi, I think you came before, so it's very out the top of my head. I think it's very great you came back. Spela, happy to see you tonight. And voila, I think that was pretty much it. Okay, guys, do well. Have a great rest of your evening, and hope you see you next time.